Good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order at 5:01. We're going to start with a roll call. Stuart Lander,
Here.
Kate Massinati,
Here.
Paula Whitzer, Michelle Brousseau, James Restivo,
Here.
and I, Carol Vetter, am here. This
Oh, yeah.
The school committee may seek to recess to executive session for discussion and or action regarding those items of business exempt from open meetings under Rhode Island General Law 4246-4 and A, discussion, personnel, terms of contract negotiation, interim director of facilities and operations, Rhode Island General Law 42465A1, discussion, personnel, terms of contract negotiation, director of facilities and operations, Rhode Island General Law 42465A1. And C, discussion, personnel, job performance, superintendent evaluation, Rhode Island General Law 42465A1. Individuals have been notified, including the right to have any discussion held in open session.
I'd like to make a motion to recess to executive session.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show that was unanimously passed. Good evening. We are going to reconvene open session at 6 o'clock, starting with a roll call. Stuart Lander,
Here.
Kate Massanati.
Here.
Paula Whitford,
Here.
Michelle Brousseau,
Here.
James Restivo,
Here.
and I, Carol Vetter, am here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have a motion to seal the minutes of executive session?
I'll make a motion to seal the minutes of executive session.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. There were no votes taken in executive session. And now I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent for student recognitions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The members of the committee would join me in front of the tables, please, for student recognitions. So this is our final student recognition of the year outside of Friday's graduation and all of the moving up ceremonies. So this is the best part of school committee meetings. No offense, everyone. So we're sad to convene it, but we're very excited everyone is here. What we will do is we will call up the elementary schools first, and we'll have those presentations. We'll read a little blurb about the accomplishments of the students, and they'll then get their certificate, get to fist bump or handshake down the school committee line, and then we'll ask that students will come back up and we'll do a group photo so that parents can and guardians and loved ones can take pictures as needed. So actually, without further ado, I'm going to ask Principal Elizabeth McGuire of Matunic Elementary to come on up to take care of Matunic's student recognitions this evening.
Good evening. My name is Liz McGuire. I'm the proud principal of Matunic Elementary School. Tonight, I'm honored to recognize 7 students in grades 1 through 5 who were nominated by their teachers over the past 2 months for outstanding achievement in academic performance as well as their leadership. While each student is being recognized for different reasons, they are all sharing the same commitment to growth, perseverance, kindness, and making a positive impact on our school community. So our first up is Max DiNardo. First grader Max DiNardo is here for his leadership in his classroom. Max comes to school each day, ready to learn and eager to participate. His teacher shares that he has a positive attitude, shares kindness with friends, and willingness to help others, make everyone a great leader in his presence. Thanks, Max. Grade 2, we wanted to recognize Fiona DeVilliers. Tonight, we recognize Fiona for her academic performance. Mrs. Sorrow shared, Fiona's consistent effort has led to tremendous growth in her reading this year. Her determination, kindness, and positive attitude make us incredibly proud of everything she's accomplished. Congratulations, Fiona. Do you want to do Henry? What do Henry? Mrs. Perrin is going to share Henry.
tonight we recognize Henry Frey for academic performance. Henry has shown such impressive growth, both academically and personally this year. His commitment to improving, staying focused, and being a positive influence on others has not gone unnoticed. I get stopped in the hallway by adults in the building saying just how impressed they are with how much Henry has grown this year. I'm so proud of you, buddy.
Next, I'd like to welcome up Mrs. LaPlante to share what she thought about Poe Harvey.
Tonight, we recognize Poe Harvey for leadership. Poe's love of reading and learning shines through in everything she does. Her thoughtful contributions, patience, and kindness help create a positive classroom community every day for everyone around her. Every day.
And to finish up our third graders, I'd like to welcome up Miss Perrin again to share her thoughts on Geo.
Gio has been a leader in our classroom and our building all year. He is one of those students who is your go-to to always help a friend, to always be the one who knows exactly what to do, even if I'm not there, and be the leader of the group across all areas in our building. So proud of you, buddy.
We have a fourth grader that wasn't able to meet tonight. Her name is Mary Lester. Oh, come on over, Mary. She is here. Join in. So tonight we recognize Mary for her leadership in her classroom. This was her first year at Matunic Elementary School, and she quickly became an important part of our school community. Her teacher shares that she shows determination, responsibility, and a friendly nature every single day at school, which has made a positive impact on both of her classmates as well as the staff. Congratulations, Mary. And Izzy, are you here? Izzy. I'm gonna jump back to Izzy. I couldn't forget you. So Izzy, Isabel Potter, you are being recognized for your academic performance this year. Through hard work and perseverance, Isabel has made remarkable growth in mathematics this year. Even more impressive is her confidence that has developed as a learner and her willingness to take on new challenges. Great job. And last but not least, I'm going to welcome up Mrs. Valone to share her thoughts on Kayla Briggs.
So tonight we recognize Caleb Briggs for his leadership and his thoughtfulness as a student who takes pride in the work and in all of his work and contributes meaningful to classroom discussions. His kindness, his positive attitude, and ability to bring people together make him a wonderful role model for his peers and our school community. Congratulations.
And now I'm going to welcome the line to turn around to Superintendent Pedraza, and you're going to give him a fist bump and walk down the line. And Izzy, you're going to go right. Gio and Fiona, just come right up. We're going to take one quick picture and then I promise we're done. Thank you, everybody, for.
Thank you. Thank you from Tunic Elementary. Next up, we're going to do Peacedale Elementary and West Kingston Elementary. So if you are here, if Isaac Hansen, David Smith, Madison McStay, Margot Turner, Teddy Hansen, Henry Palm, and Emma Jackson are here, please come on up. So it's Isaac here. Where's Isaac? Where's Isaac? Isaac. Principal Rapport wrote about Isaac, that Isaac has made extraordinary personal growth at his time at Peacedale Elementary School. He has a brilliant mind, and he has been able to consistently show his capabilities and skills throughout his 5th grade year. We are so proud of his accomplishments, hard work, and academic achievement. We are excited to watch him continue to excel next year in middle school. Congratulations, Isaac. David Smith? David? All right. David, so from, oh, stand right there. All right. So your teachers wrote about you that David consistently shows rise expectations by being respectful to all, giving his best effort, and being engaged in his learning. He is thoughtful in his interactions with his peers by noticing little things and making positive or encouraging comments. He asks how his classmates are doing if they have been absent. He asks if they need help without overshadowing their abilities. David is very intentional in his work and pays attention to the details. His artwork is impressive and his makerspace creations are inspiring to others. David is well-liked, important member of our classroom and school family. Congratulations. Is Madison with us? Quickly, Madison has grown so much this year. She has begun to take the initiative, showing curiosity and confidence in her learning. She embraces new challenges with a positive attitude. Her ability to take ownership of her learning has allowed her to make steady progress and sets a strong foundations for continued success at West Kingston. Madison McStay. Is it Margot Turner? Margot is such a role model for her peers by consistently demonstrating exceptional effort and attention to detail every day when completing her work or participating in classroom lessons. She shows kindness to others and is always willing to help a friend. Margot is also a wonderful caretaker to our mealworms and darkling beetles that we are currently studying in science. Congratulations and thank you. Teddy. Teddy has worked diligently to improve his reading skills and is a fantastic member of his class. He has made remarkable progress all year long. Teddy works with a seriousness and purpose and a clear understanding of why he is working with me and what his goals are, and he works tirelessly to accomplish them every day. Congratulations, Teddy. Henry? All right. Henry has flourished in the 2nd trimester this year. He has matured in his reactions to small problems that are now limited, if at all present, and he's pushed himself out of his comfort zone to wear different colors and is proud to show them off. And he has gained a confidence in his reading and actively participates in all of our discussions. When there are things that need to be modeled to show expectations or remind how to show expectations, Henry is a leader and takes it seriously, makes the change, and also kindly motivates others to follow his leadership and example. His class and West Kingston is so proud of Henry and the growth that they have seen in him from this year. Congratulations. And last but not least, Emma Jackson. Emma is truly locked in this spring. She consistently participates, stays focused, and completes thoughtful, high-quality work each and every day. Even with spring fever in the air, Emma continues to demonstrate responsibility, engagement, and a strong commitment to her learning. Congratulations, Emma. And now you get your certificates and get to fist bump down the line. And if we want to stay on up here, guys, we'll let parents and grandparents and everybody get a picture. If you guys want to stay up 1 minute, one more minute, let everybody get those pictures. All right, another round of applause for our West Kingston and Peacedale Elementary students. And now from Broad Rock Middle School is Theo Durson and Lucia Hubbard present. Principal McNeese writes about Theo. Congratulations to our 6th grade student, Theo Durson. Theo wrote an outstanding essay, to say the least, related to the theme, "What does service to your country mean to you?" for the statewide American Essay Contest sponsored by the Elks Lodge. And he won first place amongst 6th grade boys who submitted essays from across the state. You might want to tone that back a little bit because Theo has also been recognized as the first place national winner in his age group. And Theo and his family have been invited to a special awards dinner to acknowledge and celebrate the statewide winners at each grade level. Way to go, Theo. Broad Rock is proud of you. Congratulations. Round of applause for me. And now for South Kingstown High School. If Juliet Marino, Genevieve Coleman, Olivia Rapucci, Imogen Foy, and Avery Moniz are here, please come forward. Also, if Paige Graney, Sydney Durant, Eloise Stabile, Miles Licht, Abigail Licht, Cadence Halleck, Josie Jeremiah, and Lou Culpepper are here. Please also come forward. All right, first up for Juliet, Genevieve, Olivia, Imogen, and Avery. South Kingstown High School's HOSA students competed in this year's HOSA Student Leadership Conference at Johnson & Wales University in Providence. All students competed admirably in a competition that consisted of 14 high schools and over 400 future healthcare professionals. Juliet Marino earned a silver medal in the medical terminology skills competition. Genevieve Coleman earned a silver medal in phlebotomy. Olivia Rapucci won a gold medal in the health career photography category. Imogen Foy and Avery Moniz were awarded silver medals in health career photography. A round of applause for them. Our host. Paige. So, Paige, this is, we have 2 that are written by departments. And this is about from the biomedical CTE program. Paige is an outstanding member of the biomedical CTE program at South Kingstown High School and a student who consistently goes above and beyond in both her coursework and her commitment to the program. She holds herself to high expectations and approaches every learning opportunity with dedication, curiosity, and professionalism. Beyond the classroom, Paige is an outstanding ambassador for the CTE programs, representing both biomedical and the CNA pathways with pride. She has helped showcase these programs at Showcase Night and has visited Broad Rock Middle School, where she has not only engaged with students, but also led hands-on activities to introduce them to biomedical concepts. Paige played an active role in creating these activities, helping make each event meaningful and engaging for our younger students. Paige also serves as the HOSA president for the South Kingstown High School chapter, where she demonstrates strong leadership, initiative, and a passion for healthcare education. Her enthusiasm, leadership, and willing to serve make her a true role model and excellent representative of the biomedical CTE program. Congratulations, Paige. Sydney. Sydney is an exceptional student, also in biomedical CTE here at the high school, and consistently exceeds expectations in both her coursework and her involvement in the program. She brings focus, dedication, and a strong work ethic to everything she does, setting a high standard for herself and those around her. She truly excels in lab work and serves as a natural leader in the lab setting. She is always willing to support and guide younger peers in the program, helping them to build confidence and skills in the biomedical lab. As HOSA is a required component of the biomedical CTE program, Sydney has gone above and beyond in her role as ambassador for the HOSA chapter. She has taken an active role in leading student meetings and providing guidance and resource to fellow members as they prepare for HOSA competitions. Her commitment to helping others succeed reflects her passion for healthcare and leadership. Her dedication, leadership, and willingness to support her peers make her a standout representative of the biomedical CTE program, and we are proud to recognize her hard work and positive impact that she continues to make within our school community. Sydney Duran. And last but not least, we would like to take a moment to recognize incredible achievements of the Rebel Theater Group, or RTG, at this year's Ocean State Star Awards. RTG brought home an impressive total of 14 awards for their production of The Prom, highlighting the talent, dedication, and hard work of our students. Individual honors included Outstanding Lead Performer awards for Eloise Stabile and Miles Licht, Outstanding Supporting Performer for Abigail Licht, Outstanding Acting Performer for Cadence Halcott, and Outstanding Dance Performer awards for Josie Jeremiah and Lou Culpepper. The evening was capped off with the group receiving the award for Most Outstanding Musical, shared by the entire Rebel Theater group, cast, and crew, in recognition of the collective effort that made the production so exceptional. As a result of this honor, the group was invited to perform at the awards ceremony, where they took the stage at the Providence Performing Arts Center and presented a medley from Prom, proudly representing South Kingstown High School and the community with pride. We are incredibly proud of these students for representing our school in such a historic stage. To all of our South Kingstown High School awardees, congratulations and thank you. Thank you very much. At this time, you are, of course, free to stay to enjoy local government at its finest. However, I don't know. But if not, it's free, feel free to exit at this time. Again, thank you. Thank you for sharing your children with us. Have a great rest of the school year and a magnificent summer. Congratulations to everyone here this evening.
Right, next up, we have comments from the community. All right, so seeing that there's nobody that wants to come to the podium, we're going to close public comment. Next up is the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes.
Chair Vetter, I'd like to make a motion to move items A and B from the school committee business agenda to ahead of the superintendent's report.
Second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. So we will next take up 7A, discussion action, personnel terms of contract negotiation, interim director of facilities and operation. Yep. Okay. All right, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve item A, terms of contract negotiation, interim director of facilities and operations as discussed in executive session with the superintendent.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Next up is B, discussion action personnel, terms of contract negotiations, Director of Facilities and Operations.
I'll make a motion to approve the terms of contract negotiation, director of facilities and operations.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I am pleased to announce to the public that is watching, and had they known Mr. Adams, they would have stuck around. I'm pleased to announce the appointment of Mr. Joseph Adams as the next Director of Facilities for the South Kingstown School District. Mr. Adams is no stranger to our community. Since joining the district in 2022 as part of our maintenance division, he has built a reputation as a dedicated and knowledgeable professional who understands the unique needs of our buildings and the people who learn and work within them. He has also most recently served with distinction as president of Council 94, demonstrating his commitment to the workforce and the relationships that make this district function. In February, Mr. Adams stepped into the role of interim director and immediately faced one of the most challenging tests a facility leader can encounter, directing the safe reopening of all district schools following a historic blizzard. He met that moment with calm, competence, and decisive action. Our interview committees were struck with Mr. Adams' exceptional organizational skills, his genuine desire to collaborate across all departments and with the broader community, and his clear passion for shaping the long-term trajectory of South Kingstown's learning environments. Once again, please join me in congratulating Mr. Joseph Adams on this well-deserved appointment. I look forward to working with him in many years ahead. Congratulations, Mr. Adams.
Just excited.
Just press.
Transparent speech. Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you to the school committee. I served as a maintenance staff member for a number of years with honor. It's my pleasure to serve you guys now as a facilities director. I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to serving you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Thank you and welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to go back up to the superintendent's report. So I'm going to turn it back over to the superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the presentation gets ready to be presented, there are 3 items on the superintendent's report this week: the personnel report, a state aid update, and a teaching and learning professional development overview that are on the docket. So next slide. On our personnel report, this is purely informational. We have 2 resignations as well as an appointment of a 1-to-1 teacher assistant and appointment of the, resignation of the head girls volleyball coach, the appointment of a new girls volleyball coach in the fall. Our retirees or members of the general public will be recognized. So this was our last student recognition, because at our next meeting 2 weeks from now will be our retiree recognition. Next slide, please. While it is a small update, it is at least an update in a positive direction. So on our state aid update, again, this is most recently as of 5/29. And still is still up in the air, but this is the best guidance. This is also both of these figures, and where all of this comes from is found on the RIDE website. So our total aid approved by the House Finance on May 29th, which saw us increase by $78,185, with most of that increase coming in the form of funds for non-public transportation. However, our base aid did increase by $26,000. And then we had smaller changes due to the bump ups in the Enrollment Transition Fund and the Poverty Loss Stabilization Fund. Again, this still needs to have a gavel put down on the full budget, but generally when it reaches this stage, it is pretty close to being as accurate as we will see moving forward, which is again good to see. That non-public transportation, though, does come in the form of credits, and so it is not, once again, it is not aid that can be shifted wherever we want it to be. But again, given that our last conversation, we bundled all state aid together, including high cost needs special ed, which did not change. Hence, I did not put it onto this slide, but that stayed level. These are the only areas that changed in terms of line items within state aid. I'm happy to take any questions, but before we move on to any professional development.
Mr. Pedraza,
Yes, please.
can you remind me what is enrollment transition?
So the Enrollment Transition Fund is when schools over a course of time that their enrollment has decreased. And based on the percentage, what they do is they phase out, if you will, or they transition the amount of aid over time, over a period of years. And rather than your enrollment decreased X number of dollars. So it is a supplement to the gradual, to reduce the level of decline that would have been expected due to the sheer numbers that have occurred over time. Welcome. Okay, with that, I will ask for the next slide, and I happily turn it over to Mr. Seeger.
Thank you, Mr. Pedraza, and good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school committee. It is a pleasure to be here to provide you with a brief update and overview of the 25-26 school year professional development activities and some of the exciting events that we have just ahead. And with that, next slide, please. So on this slide, you just see some of the key snapshot items, if you will, as it relates to PD that has occurred over the course of this year. So of note, as you all are well aware, per our current collective bargaining agreements, we have one contractual PD day for our two largest bargaining units, NEASK and SKESP. We did have a successful professional development day to begin the year last August, which seems like a moment ago. In the interim, as you recall, we did have a shift in the statewide school year calendar for public schools with the reduction in the required amount of days. And from that, we were able to build in 2 additional PD days, which are on June 24th and June 25th, respectively. And I do want to thank our bargaining units as well as the school committee for the flexibility locally and revising our calendar and allowing for that additional professional development. The other piece I wanted to touch upon and also thank the members of is our district PD committee, made up of both NEASK, SKESP, along with members of the administration for meeting throughout the year on a regular basis and providing that continuous input, planning, and feedback as it relates to our formal professional development. Next slide, please. And so primarily out of the PD committee, we have some key PD drivers that are the pivotal central focus of our conversation around what are our local needs and where do we need to focus our professional learning. Those drivers are listed for you here, but certainly it includes our equity audit, our strategic plan, which, as we know, is stemming directly from our equity audit in many respects. We also are leveraging wherever possible our survey works data We currently have the promulgated results from last year's survey works. We as a state have finalized this year's survey works data, the results of which are not yet shared publicly, but we look forward to getting the hot off the presses survey works data perhaps in the weeks and if past is prologue, potentially months, depending on the state's timeline. And then finally, you know, in this school year in particular, we also had input from our district safety team, which for the state of Rhode Island over the course of the year, there's been several unfortunate incidents that have resulted in revisiting the conversation related to to school safety and considerations around ensuring physical safety in our schools and in our sites. So with that feedback and with those key PD drivers, we have landed, next slide, please. We have landed in a place where for our 2 June PD days, we're focusing on these 2 major themes around physical safety and then the psychological safety component. And to get a little bit further in depth, next slide, please. And so within those themes, we have a number of PD day topics that, as alluded to on the previous slide related to the drivers, have come up or come by way of either what's captured in the equity audit, what's part and parcel to our strategic plan priorities, and what has also been an ask, a recommendation from our partners on the district safety team. And with that, next slide, please. And then in building off of those 2 major themes and the topics, we also wanted to incorporate some modalities that appear within a recent RIDE publication coming last year, the High Quality Professional Learning Guidebook, which speaks to the myriad benefits of these different modalities. So we felt that it was important to have a variety of different modalities consistent with adult learning theory, in order to maximize the learning opportunities that we had with our professionals across the organization. And with that, I will pause and entertain any questions that you might have. Thank you.
One piece that I would just like to add is that, in terms of whether it be the physical or what we're framing as physical safety or framing as psychological safety, I want to extend likewise the thanks to the bargaining units and the school committee for allowing us to focus and turn these into PD days. While we do more professional development than the days allowed, it requires in some cases pulling teachers out of the classrooms and making it so that they're not in front of students. So to have everybody together, as well as being able to focus in on safety, whether it be physical and or psychological and or best practices, is that ultimately it is about the school's culture. It is about what we do collectively as individuals. So as much as we do individual training, we also, especially when it comes to safety, we have a responsibility to do it collectively. And doing so over these next couple of days for professional development will not only strengthen as we do our physical safety drills and we do professional development throughout the year, it will also allow us to then revisit these topics again next year and make sure that these aren't one and dones, that this is constant, that these are constant conversations about trust, about safety, about best practices, and making sure that that students and those who work with our students feel physically and psychologically well and equipped in order to get to the rough and tumble world of teaching and learning. So again, while we are introducing some of these topics, and these are themes, if you will, I want to assure the committee and anybody watching that, again, this allows us to get into these topics, dig deeper, and then go further in future professional development days, whether that be collectively in a professional development day, collectively with faculty and staff meetings, or in small groups and individually with individual professional development breakout groups. So again, this is work and topics that are being brought up and highlighted, but is work that will also be constant for many years and ongoing.
So I'll start with, I'm happy to see, kind of what we're moving towards, right? So physical safety, psychological safety. It's good to see that the district safety team is involved with the drivers. I think, it's important to ensure, however, that our safety plans are, up to date and current. And when I say current, I mean more for the years, the world of 2026. The world of 2026 is significantly different than previous years. The way social media is right now is kind of, I'll say, off the charts, from children up to adults and everybody in between. My daughter just told me a story. She was babysitting for a friend, had a little 5-year-old at the Guild. And what she witnessed there was bizarre for her. And when she described it to me, it was like a collective of kids playing, but while they were playing, they suddenly turned into this, like, it wasn't like, I don't want to be histrionic and say it was like a fight or a riot, because it wasn't, but it was this strange physical behavior that the kids was like commonplace for them. And just swinging at each other, pushing people down, like pretending to stomp on them. Bizarre behavior enough for my daughter's 24. She was like, let's go home, and like was able to explain, like, this is not appropriate behavior. And there were a couple other parents there. And she was like, I don't understand. Like, she's trying to rationalize it in her own brain. And I'm like, it's what we're seeing on social media, on TikTok, on Instagram Reels. As an adult, I scroll through and I'm like, what is happening at our beaches, on our ferries, and in any sort of, I was in, and that's just in Narragansett and Block Island, but I was at the rodeo in Houston. It happened there. It's like these mob of young adults, teenagers, they just come together and they do this like melee situation happening. And she's watching kids in our community at the Guild playground reflect what they are watching in their little reels. So it's super important to make sure that that is being brought in to our plans, and understanding that there's like it's kind of this, and everybody's kind of numb to it because you're scrolling through and you're looking at everything. So I think it's super important to make sure that that is updated and included. Physical safety, but psychological safety of witnessing this happen. And the last thing that I want to kind of talk about a little bit more is, and I'm going to actually let Paula speak more to the trauma-informed practices, because she's actually, I would consider, like, you've been studying it more than I have in these past couple of years. But building relationships with students, I think, is incredibly important. We've talked about it many times, but I'm not going to get into specifics of these last few weeks, scenarios that have played out in our community, but there seems to be a level of strangeness that we're business as usual. And I know there's a level of respect that is afforded to families who navigate tragedy and trauma. But to go along like nothing has happened is very bizarre to me. It makes me very uncomfortable. And it goes to this building relationships with students because it speaks to what if it were someone else and we're just going along like business as usual. And I just feel there's something that sits wrong. When I was growing up, unfortunately, there was a group of like 4 classes. I started my 7th grade and our like 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade classes. We lost a student per year for 7 years straight. And we collectively mourned and we collectively grieved. The community mourned and grieved for these kids. The irony of it is, one of the kids, their family was here because their grandchildren from a sibling was honored tonight. And to me, it was such a powerful moment to look over. And like the way the community was impacted and affected. And it feels really kind of hollow to not acknowledge and just give a nod to the fact that we've shared a loss in our community. And I feel like that piece right there kind of jumped off the screen at me where we're building relationships with our students. We are kindergarten through 12. And I feel like we should honor it and make sure that they feel safe, no matter what happens in our community. So, thank you.
I knew we were gonna have a conversation tonight, around professional development. And as Kate alluded to, I'm very big on trauma informed. I make it my business to be as informed as I possibly can. And I have even gone so far lately to do an assessment in my employment place around trauma informed. So I'm going to read out my thoughts because these are my thoughts, and I will also, before I even read my thoughts out, I do want to acknowledge that you have tapped into some of the things that I was concerned about, but I'm still going to read through my thoughts. Okay. So first, I want to first acknowledge the district's efforts in providing professional development with such a tight budget. But I'd be remiss if I didn't call attention to the fact that we could do better and we should do better. I do not feel like the method of this professional development is effective because it is being done online. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about the modules. Because it's being done online in a model that isn't real-time training. Given the recent incidents, I believe this professional development is needed now more than ever. One is enough, 2 is too many. We have a crisis on our hands. And even if these incidents did not both happen in our schools, we need trainings that allow our educators to make our students feel safe, as if they have someone who will listen, believe, and that they matter. The fact that we are not talking about these incidents inside of our school is a clear sign that our district is missing a very important component in a system that uses strive as a mission to our students and our families. It is not what we are doing. We are pushing it under the rug where many things live for decades. I understand we have some counseling in place for our students. However, those student has used extensively 3 weeks ago. I hope I'm wrong about this. We have to remember that our students are humans too, and that the only place they want to talk about anything is where they feel safe. And when it's not, they need to understand why and what people are doing to help them and their peers to address without having a total stranger have them believe that everything is okay. It needs to be our administration, educators, and families who do this. If everyone is properly trauma informed, we can do this ourselves. We don't need to give them the details. We just need to hear their concerns, validate their feelings, and make them feel like our school is and will continue to be a safe place for them to thrive. Please bring in a professional firm to do hands-on professional development and trauma-informed learning. Our students and our staff deserve better, and we could do better. So with that, I did have a couple of questions. And one of them was, do you have or does NEASK or SKESP have any funding that can help towards professional development for their teachers and their union dual payers? And I also think that we should have solid collaboration with URI or others who may have this hands-on training.
So we have professional development funds. So that's set in our local budget as well as then Title II funds, which come from the federal government. We also, I'm pleased to report, both this year and last year, we do work with with our local bargaining unit and with NEA, as they do have trainings that they offer as a group. And what we've worked on over the past 2 years is selecting, while they're module based, they are the folks come together who are participating, and we have an agreed upon theme or approved that people can do as part of their evaluation process. So there's something called a professional growth plan that everybody in their evaluation year must do. And what we do is we offer one in conjunction with the NEA, one or multiple ones that they can go through together, and that we ultimately decide is something that is aligned with the goals and priorities of the district. It's not just, oh yeah, here's a catalog of 14 things, take whatever you want and do the modules and it's approved. It's focused. So we've focused in the past in terms of, I believe it was co-teaching and inclusion this year. Last year it was, sorry, actually, for the NEA module. It was I'm sorry, it was co-teaching in both years, because we wanted to have that cohort go through, because people go in either 2, generally 3-year cycles, or every single year, and we wanted to make sure those opportunities, as that was our focus initially. So yes, we do work with the NEA. Yes, they do bring those things to the table, because those are pieces that they're bringing to the table as they are NEA resources created, and members and the district don't get charged for that, and people get their time freely to engage in that. They don't have to, they can create their own professional growth plan. But again, one of those areas where, yes, we have the resources in fiscal, both in our local budget and in our federal budget. And yes, we do work with our bargaining units, not only as in terms of the professional development committee, but also finding resources that are agreed upon and that they can go through individually and collectively.
Thank you for that. But I do have a question, because I'm thinking back to the memo to the school committee, and at that time you alluded to there was no students that had taken advantage of the counseling that was being offered to them. Has anybody to date used it?
So in terms of professional development in that memo, I want to tread carefully here. That was in regards to outside, not internal, not during the course of the school day. So students during the course of the school day I have not gone through and circled back around with, in terms of this most recent, or this weekend's opportunities for the community to come here. I have not engaged with those stakeholders to get participation or lack thereof numbers. But I can say that during the course of the day, our students have trained local, known to them, trusted adults. It was, those folks have students who were coming to them. It was, again, making sure that if there were students who are out there, that they have people both inside the school community and outside the school community.
Do we know if we have any educators to date that are trauma informed?
Well, so all of them must do the modules that we've outlined for them. There's a core module that will have gone through in terms of all of the safety care trainings that are required in terms of people's job responsibilities or being on crisis response teams. But in terms of, since we've been here over the last 2 years, I can't speak to the individuals who may have requested to go and do that, but this is a systemic, everyone from secretaries to one-to-one paraprofessionals to educators will partake and will need to upload their certificates of completion and participation.
Is there a certificate of completion?
Yes.
Upon the end of the model?
Yes.
So there's like a, I guess I could call it a educational feedback kind of quiz or something like that, of that nature.
Yeah, so throughout the course of the modules, there are learning checks that it's not just you played it out and it goes much like the right to read training that our educators went through at the awareness level. There are stop and check-ins, and in order to progress to that next piece. Again, I would agree, with you in that is the most basic level, rudimentary level that we want, but we want to make sure, one, that we start with common language and that we make sure everybody has it. And then we can continue to then build off of that shared experience moving forward. And it is not just oh, you had this, no, we've had the basics. Now, what is that? Now let's get together. And what does that look like in the classroom? What are you going to do? What does that look like in assessment? What does that look like in this scenario? Who wants to go further? Who wants to do more, and offering those in future? So I wholeheartedly agree that, again, we can and should and are doing more, but this is a starting point to make sure that we have a universal set. Additionally, over the past many years, there have been different experiences that may have been shared by individuals at a building and so there's not a common language. So we've had maybe this PBIS system in this school and this one and this disciplinary and this language or conscious discipline in this school. So this is our first foray, given this opportunity and given that making sure that we have universal communication about physical safety in the buildings, that we want those to be the same and that we involve local law enforcement. It has to be the same. This is our first foray, at least in terms of our time here in the district, of doing that. And we want the same to be true in terms of our trauma-informed practice and educational practices. And so that's why we're starting and trying to take advantage of this. Had we, in a perfect world, had we known, had it not been the end of the school year, then absolutely we would, take full advantage of designing entire days focused on, or even multiple days, and then bringing back that team or having times throughout the course of the school year where people can get to that next level of training. So that's where we're going to get to, but this is our starting point.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
First, I'd like to acknowledge both our committee members, Ms. Whitford and Massananti, for airing their very deep personal thoughts and beliefs of what is obviously on a lot of people's minds in our community in terms of some of the things that have recently occurred. And it's always that moment when something does occur that heightens people's more awareness. And there's some level of, there's what we know at this moment, and then there's what we know we don't know. But I think the biggest gap is what we don't know between where we are and where I think we're all committed to getting to, and that is to have an environment of safety for all of our children, students, throughout the system. They're, you know, having people to, you know, I've mentioned before that, you know, oftentimes, especially high school students, are more apt to listen to themselves, right, to their peers, and somehow finding a way to help with getting students with those professionals who can help those who are that they can reach out to. I understand there's always that one piece of privacy and how do you engage with that level of information flow. But I also do think that personally, I feel, as I think others on the school committee, that, you know, based on the level of communication that we receive, keeps us very much not as well as informed as I think we'd like to be about how things, what's happening and how things are progressing as it goes, as opposed to not hearing anything once that first memo comes out, because there's so much going on, to Kate's point of what happens on social media, that the rumors that start to fly and the things that start getting acted on are really even at times more detrimental and feeding in to the problem. So I think if there's a way to stay committed to the process, but also engage us a little bit more and see where we can help out, I think that would be helpful as well.
Like Ms. Massananti's comment. I too have heard some of the, you know, kind of go on with a normal day type thing, and similar to our experience when my middle daughter was a senior year, 7 of her classmates lost a parent. And the senior class, like, grieved together and attended funerals and services with families. And so I think that situation needs to be looked into a little bit more. That said, I do have a couple of questions. So we have these 2 extra days of the day. And I just want to see, are these all the 2 days, or are they some in online and some in person. And can you just expand on that, please?
Certainly, I'd be happy to clarify that. So as reflected in our revised calendar, there's a combination in that June 24th and June 25th day. So June 24th is an in-person entirely professional development day. So from start to end, we are here in person. And the June 25th day, which would be the last day for our professional staff, our certified staff. That would be that asynchronous, self-paced, virtual, module-based professional learning. So that's how we're able to get the combination of those modalities for PD.
Thank you.
So the one piece about the asynchronous is that because of that immediate need or the need for that training to not just be a one and done, and that, ideally we'd love all professional learning to have done yesterday, regardless of the topic. Those are also, we have released those to the faculty and staff and given them time to do that immediately as soon as it was determined what was there, because we still have time with students. We still, the time for those trauma-informed practices or that recognizing implicit bias, those are things that we can benefit from immediately. And so as such, it's not something that we were holding in abeyance. It was a matter of people, as well as, trusting people as part of that thrive, extending out that to trust what they need and to trust them to use that time and complete it so that they could be used immediately should their time allow, throughout the course of the past month or two. And so there are folks who may have have already completed the asynchronous professional development because it spoke to them, because they have the time. And again, is one of those things that while it does have its drawbacks, is something that we allow people to take, or there's something to be said about both in terms of their intrinsic and potentially even extrinsic motivations that allows them to complete that training sooner rather than later. And that continues to be true for all of the modules. So the 25th, there might be some people in person, who want to come to school and take care of those modules. There are some people who are already completed. There are some people who are going to do them on the beach. The important thing is that they get them done and that we can continue that training and continue those conversations moving forward in all of our school cultures and our school buildings.
Thank you. I do have another question with regard to building relationships with students. And I know I'm dating myself, but do we still have the advisory? And the whole point of bringing advisory into, I think it's pretty much all high schools, but back in the dark ages, we were told that advisory was being brought into large high schools. And at the time I was teaching at the largest high school in the state with 2,100 students. And that the whole point of the advisory was so that students would have an adult in the building that they could build a relationship with. And is that still going on in advisory? And should it be going on in advisory? Is that still the idea of advisory?
Yes, one of the core principles in terms of whether it be based off of the advisory and the regulations, the advisory in terms of the BEP, or advisory in terms of NEASC accreditation, is to increase the number of adults that students have that they feel that they can trust and can, that they can discuss issues with that extend beyond academics. And so as well as academics, that is not just their school counselor. that continues to be in place and varies in terms of activities, themes, things that go on in the building. That is ultimately responsive time, but ultimately those standards and their goals have not changed.
Thank you. And I think that's it, but I would like to thank Ms. Bickford for her research and studies in trauma-informed practices.
One last question, if I may. So I'm just wondering, I've been very fortunate to be always involved in professional development myself, either receiving it or actually offering professional development. And I've also been very fortunate to have heard some of the greatest motivational speaking ever, where people are ready to charge through the door and absolutely change their lives. Unfortunately, those things, habits, have a tendency to creep back in. And where, interestingly enough, if you allow me for just a second to, I've been asked by a client of mine recently to actually develop a curriculum for them, a training program that is sustainable over a long period of time. And the reason they asked me to do that was because I was delivering training basically 1 day a week for 3 months and done. And what happens after that 3 months? How does that get reinforced? Learning doesn't, as we all know, doesn't happen in a day, doesn't happen a month or 3 months. It's about the sustainability of ongoing repetitive engagement with those things. So excuse me if I missed how that is part of this in terms of the ongoing reinforcement.
Thank you, Mr. Lander, and I'd be happy to speak to that. And I'd be remiss if I did not call attention to that, as we've noted on a number of different points this evening, where we're at now is that what I would refer to as, a collective organizational schema building in many respects in terms of the topics that we see here. While there might be there are a number of individuals across the organization who are well versed. I think getting everybody on the same page with a common language regarding these two major themes, was critical in terms of moving forward with what I hear you speak to is the job embedded component and the for lack of a better phrase, the cycles or the coaching cycles as one example of how we continue to reinforce and to employ and leverage the skills and understandings inherent here. So in thinking about the next steps from here, given that this will be the 2 last days of the school year, with many exceptions having already engaged in those modules, but giving folks the opportunity to then come back and engage in a district professional development day early on in the year, and then look to leverage the existing structures that we have across the district in terms of after-school faculty meeting time, common planning time, which we're fortunate to have in a number of our building schedules. Then along with taking a close look at our Title II dollars and what we are including in our next year's CRP in terms of potential opportunities to, continue to support this work here. So it's not a once and done. So it's not, oh, don't you remember 2 years ago you had that's when we know that's, has limited effectiveness. And in terms of building capacity and getting to a place where we are a highly skilled organization all individuals across all bargaining units. And, so we don't leave it to, oh, that's, one teacher where I connect and I'm supposed to have a relationship. It's every touch point in terms of the adults surrounding our students. So that's the kind of the high level thinking around how we embed this moving forward. And we're fortunate that we have a strategic plan in place that captures this in priority 2, in particular around trust and belonging and feeling that sense of safety here in school communities. So I'm encouraged by all those components, again, kind of rowing in that direction to which you speak.
And then additionally, embedding it into the evaluation process that, again, depending on years of tenure experience as well as going through it, is embedded, whether it be the demonstration of those competencies that we expect to see, given that people have received professional development, but also because principals are doing it, are embedding that professional development during faculty meetings, common planning time, when it does come to evaluation time, those are the things that are being looked at and feedback being given in terms of as a process, and ultimately critical not just to, once again, on the intrinsic piece of, yes, I want to do right by kids, but ultimately my job and the evaluation of my job. Am I living it? Am I doing it? Not did I sit through it, but when I get evaluated, do I see it? Are those skills there? And if not, well, then we need more professional development, or we need to have a conversation about what that, and we then go deeper on an as need basis, not just yeah, you check the box and now it's done. So again, getting to those points where when we talk about these things and we talk about, when they happen, so I appreciate the question, because we can talk about a day or what's planned on a certain piece, and we don't see what's done on a daily basis, what's done after a crisis, what's done before a drill, after a drill, and those things, the debriefing that when an event does occur, or the school safety team convening, or the grade level team convening, that those things are put into action.
Yeah, I guess those are the things as the school committee, we'd like to hear about how those things are taking place so that we're in that loop. Yeah.
If I could just ask another question, do we have the common planning time completely K to 12? I thought so.
Yes.
Also, these online modules that are available to the teachers, are they available again? Like, if I complete the modules that are required, can I go back to a module I've already done to, if they're still available?
They're still available. You can sign up for others. You could then also, at the end of every professional development, Mr. Seeger and, we send out a professional development survey, what went well, what didn't go well, what else would you like to learn? Would you like to go deeper into this topic? Was there something missing? And so we look for those opportunities as well as those interests for people, as well as then, depending on the topic, the need for it. Because somebody might be very interested in a topic and going back to a teaching and learning component. And so facilitating that professional growth, it might be a nice to, not a must to at the moment. And so we then go into that. But when it comes into relationships with students and our expectations and holding high expectations and the classroom and school culture, those are always encouraged, and there's no, price point set on those. That's ongoing.
Thank you.
So we're kind of in an unfortunate space right now because our current administration team has only been in place for 2 years now, 2.5, almost 3. almost two. So, right, so it feels like you've been here forever. I'm sure it feels the same for y'all. But you haven't. And so there were best practices that happened 10 years ago. And then there was best practices that changed year after year after year after year. And then y'all have come in and now it's like reestablishing some best practices. And so, and I'm only bringing this up actually because Paula was kind of asking me, how do you come to land on specifically what you're determining will be involved in the current professional development? Because I think kind of what we're talking about, the unfortunate thing about that is, especially around trauma-informed scenarios, is you don't know how effective your training is and your professional development is until you're faced with a situation. And that clearly is not when you want to find out if what you've been practicing is quality or not, right? And so that kind of circles me back to the question in how is it determined? Because I know in the past it was determined a particular way, and then it kind of, and I can't really speak to how it was determined for a few years there because I'm not sure. It just kind of was like, oh, this is a good idea, let's do it. So how does your committee, kind of, I know you showed like how it's influenced, but when you finally decide like, okay, this is the one that we're going to do, is it like a team agrees and votes? Is it a democracy? Like what kind of, how do you settle in on the thing?
So that is an excellent question. And what I would say is, to your point, starting with those key drivers and start as a starting point, and then from there, really there's a tapestry of factors that would, point us, in a particular direction. As I indicated, this is does include, committees that are meeting regularly and as required. And so getting that real-time feedback around, hey, if what say you, what's your thoughts if this is what, the modality looks like, or if this is what the topic is and this is how we get there. So there is that, ongoing collaborative conversation around when we ultimately get to that place. I will say just, Bill, because we've been here, for a very brief tenure, as it relates to the district PD day, in our experience, that has been something that it's all hands on deck with everybody weighing in and building in what I, am proud of as in terms of a robust agenda, and really, and then kudos to the folks who step forward and who want to lead and facilitate those choice-based sessions that we've been able to offer as well. So with these two PD days, they were a little more unique in that, we had a number of moving targets as it relates to will we, won't we, will we have them? And then, by the time getting to that space, only a handful of meetings remaining for our PD committee to really, weigh, the granular pieces of that. But we were able to get to a place where we had, collective conversation on that. I hope that helps to clarify.
So in the end, we have a memorandum of agreement that was collectively bargained, that determines the composition and the requirements. Ultimately, it's kind of like a democratic republic, but the administration has the power to veto, and we end up vetoing or approving or not based on alignment with the strategic plan and what we feel are the needs of the district. And accordingly, because these were surprise days, if you will. Ultimately, those priorities, because, I was gonna say to be frank, but I'm to be Michael. Safe, engaged, future focus. And based on the events of what was going on in Rhode Island at the time and throughout the nation constantly, that we need to make sure, as much as we're trying to get to that safe through relationships, that we need to make sure that we get to safe through proper training that needs to get done, and needs to get done universally, and needs to get done consistently. And so ultimately, that decision to focus in on that physical, once the district safety team brought it forward as a priority, if it was a priority for them, then ultimately that was going to be the focus. To get to that engaged piece and make sure that that it goes beyond that ultimately our safety relies on community. It relies on someone who's on social media going, that doesn't look right. It relies on the kids walking by the door and goes, that shouldn't be propped, or that student isn't here today. I should go talk to someone. That's where ultimately that safety lies. And ultimately, that's what we said we would be focusing these days on. And we then engaged with the with the professional development committee to make sure that it's something that they felt that as the consumers of that and the participants, that they felt it was relevant, a good use of their time, and that we design as much as possible around those themes.
I just want to say it's kind of ironic that we got the extra days for PD because of the blizzard. Without the blizzard, we would have only had one day. So we're fortunate to have this second day. And then I think safety with all that's going on in this world is probably the biggest priority. And I'm super glad that you're not talking about just physical safety, but psychological safety, because that is so important for all the reasons said here tonight. But I want to be mindful going forward. We're not always going to have a blizzard, so we're going to have one day. That's not enough. And I think this is going to come down to a bargaining thing. So I just want to put that out there. This coming year, we're going to have one day. So it's tough. But thank you, Mr. Seeger, for all your hard work. I want to thank the committee, the PD committee, for all of their work. I think it's thoughtful, it's meaningful, and so important. And I see we're developing some good practices that we desperately need. So thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. And that would conclude my report.
Do I have a motion to accept the superintendent report?
I'll make a motion to accept the superintendent's report.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Okay, that's going to bring us back down to school committee business C, financial consultant contract. Mr. Perdoza?
So before you, you have a contract for Mr. Anthony Ferrucci, who had previously served the district as the interim CFO. Given that we have a new director of facilities, as well as Mrs. Proctor going through the Rhode Island process of a budget for the last time, or excuse me, for the first time. Well, we went through this for the first time, as well as the potential, or given that Mr. Adams is vacating a position and it will take some time to utilize to find his replacement, and that we have dollars associated with that. Given that we have people newer than Mr. Seeger and myself in their respective roles in the district must have we've talked about repeatedly getting next year's FY 28 started as soon as possible. This will help with that. Mr. Ferrucci has extensive experience both in terms of capital improvement planning, as well as the district. We must come up with our new at least 5-year facilities plan for the state, which is ultimately if there are any new dollars for school housing aid, those projects are what we need to put forward and endorse those projects. So basically, we have a 5-year capital plan that must be submitted to RIDE. I believe it is in, I want to say I think it's November of 27. But we need to start that process now, both in terms of the CIP process for this year and next year. And we want to make sure our new facilities director is positioned well to do that. And we can do that with someone who has that experience, as well as make sure that as we submit to RIDE for the first time, not the last time, the first time, that the support is there and that a process is put in place, not only that needs to be done, but that everybody is comfortable with. And Mr. Ferrucci's knowledge and expertise and availability, quite frankly, is one that I think is the district, myself included, having never facilitated or gone through a 5-year district plan that needs to be submitted to RIDE, would be an asset to the entire district and organization. And as such, I put this contract before you, which besides the increase of $10 more per day, is the same contract that was approved previously by this committee.
Could you give us the dates though? Because I know that you've highlighted them here because these are not the current dates that for the new contract, correct? Do you have the dates?
That is correct. No, that is something that I need to, once approved, I need to go with Mr. Ferrucci on to make sure that of his availability, is he in town? Is he not in town? What date did he want to get started?
Okay, and
But I do not, I don't see it extending beyond this summer.
so you have 130 per hour here, so that's going to increase to
No,
140.
that was 120.
It was 120, so it's 130. Okay. And then I'm not I know where you're going. We're rolling forward an old contract, but 3D, do we need to keep this in here? You will
No,
evaluate in writing?
I can strike that.
Yeah, I think we need to strike that paragraph.
Yes, that's a good point, because ultimately he's not fulfilling a role he's not replacing or temporarily replacing a certified or administrative role. So there would be no,
And then this is, so I wish I knew more about contracts. Do we need to say something about his responsibilities, his newer responsibilities inside the contract that he will be working on with the facility manager on the CIP 5-year plan? That kind, does that need to go into the contract, or is it just duties as assigned?
duties as
Okay, perfect.
I just want to confirm the compensation here is the 130 per hour, not per diem.
that is correct, per hour, not per diem.
We have this in the budget. It seems like quite a expense.
Once again, given the breakage that we'll have, and for the temporary nature of it for a few months this summer is actually going to be gone. It's essentially 2 months, and it's not every single day, nor the full time serving as interim CFO. The hours would not be the same as last year when was serving as CFO. We would be serving in this project-based capacity, and we're confident we can have that breakage again as Mr. Adams steps away, and we then have the breakage to fill that position, because this does not incur benefits. This does not occur. So yes, I believe that we can do this within the budget.
Okay, and so to help control costs, I see that we have in item 1 here. Consultant shall work a minimum of 3 days per week, 5 hours per day. That's basically committing to, I'm not gonna do the math off the top of my head, 15 times 130, whatever that is per week. Do you think, is it minimum the right approach here, or should we do a maximum to help control costs?
I can do, that maximum would be, that would be fine. I don't see it going over. If anything, I see it going under one, because also we have upon review, it's not he's doing it, where we have people that are ultimately doing that work that he is consulting them in. So I would be comfortable placing that as a maximum.
Okay, and then I guess I'm just curious, the terminology of employment contracts as a consulting, I guess is what we had in the past, so it shouldn't be an issue. It just seems like it'd be more of like a services contract than an employment contract.
You, they are employees and I'm not employees. It is a employment contract though, because I believe, I mean, if it is an employment contract, you're gonna run it through payroll and do withholdings. Okay, good. That's what I thought. So if it's a services contract, you're gonna 199 them. So this is gonna be run through payroll. So it is an employment contract.
Okay.
Correct. This is not an outside organization that we're contracting with. This is an individual who we would be employing and putting these through payroll and processing taxes as an individual, not as a corporation or as as standalone entity.
Got it. Cool. All right, thank you.
We anticipate any of 6 and 7 happening. Professional growth and traveling expenses.
No, I would anticipate that being boilerplate language
Right.
given by
That's-
Attorney Hennius when this was crafted. However, if there were an opportunity to, RIASBO, Rhode Island Business Administrators, if there was an opportunity that Mrs. Proctor afforded herself and Mr. Ferrucci engaged as well, that would be something that, if assuming we could entertain it or assuming it was something we could do, wouldn't be something that I would want to not avail ourselves of.
Let's say, do we want a motion? So I would like to make a motion to accept the financial consultant contract.
I'll second.
Can I just ask that the motion read, accept the contract with the revisions provided tonight?
Oh, for the dates. Okay, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Okay, it's going to bring us to D, discussion action bid award, RFP number 2471, transportation, Ocean State Transit revision.
So we needed to bring this back around as we got a little bit ahead of ourselves last meeting. And hence the memo I've provided to you. Essentially, we have what I've done here, and Mrs. Proctor has done, is broken out those additional services that extend beyond the base bid amount. Last meeting, when you accepted the bid, I believe it was Vice Chair Estivo had asked, well, what is the total bid? And when we did that, we gave you the total cost that we expected with the base bid, and then the additional costs that we incur, because those costs have to come off of the individual price sheet. So in the base bid amount that is for everyone to see, is available on BidsNet. The total bid, or the winning bid, because it was the sole bid, was 3.6, $3,632,310. What that doesn't account for, and what we were trying to do to make sure that the committee had an accurate cost of what dollars would ultimately be going to Ocean State, was we put in those additional operational costs that Ocean State also takes care of. And that is, in most cases, or is our pre-K, which runs, have a full day and a midday program. So then those midday buses, also our pre-K program for students who qualify under special education are bused. And those buses on the minibuses, which do require monitors. And so those monitor costs are also factored in there. Additionally, when we run after school or late buses, we tried to account for those costs as well. And then, so those are the three main buckets. We have monitors that if they just do an AM PM run, they would be under the 5-hour bucket that we're accounting for. However, if they continue to work, so after doing the AM run, that there's a little bit of break, but then they're coming back to do the afternoon preschool or the transition academy or go out into the community, that those costs are included as well. So we mistakenly gave you a total last meeting. And so again, for the committee's clarification, as well as the general public, the bid award, the sole bid award was for $3,632,310. That would be the bid award. However, the total cost that we currently propose in FY 27 is $1,190,238.50 higher than that for those three costs occurred. For a grand total of what we were reported, but incorrectly did so because it was not technically the winning bid, is our total anticipated cost to Ocean State with the base bid and the additional operating costs is $4,822,548.50. And so we wanted to bring this as well as other agenda items forward for clarification and proper disclosure and approval. Please.
So we have a motion to accept the new bid amounts as outlined by the superintendent.
I'll make a motion to accept the revision report for transportation RFP 2471.
I'll second, but I do have another question.
Okay.
So, just on the, and this is probably just me for my edification and possibly for the public's edification as well. What are we basing those additional numbers on, that additional 1.1 million that's coming into play here? This is not part of the original bid. Is that like add-on services that if you get extra buses per day for preschool, it's cost this amount? Like if we, you know, for whatever reason, only had AM pre-K instead of AM and PM pre-K, would there be a fixed amount that we know will change in that?
So
cost?
those prices are taken off of the submitted pricing sheet. And so it would then say, okay, yeah, an additional bus, depending on the size, with monitors, without monitors, half day, after school. So there are pricing guides then based off of services that tend to fluctuate. So for example, the after school, that 200 is total, and each school that runs the after school bus would take up one of those, what we budget for 200. Should pre-K enrollment, that if for some reason, you know, we didn't have, everything was full day. Okay, well then those costs would go away. If we had to offer, or if we offered another pre-K section and we needed to AM and PM, okay, how much would that be for transportation? We would take that off of the price sheet and can add and adjust accordingly.
Said another way, these are quote unquote optional add-ons to the base bid that we know we're going to require because of the way the programs we want to run and the services we want to provide to our students. So just clarifying that base amount just to get the 4 of our children from home to school. And the add-ons are somewhat optional, but not really optional in true sense of the word, but they are add-ons addition above the bid.
They're required operational expenses that vary.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Okay, next up, E, discussion action. Fiscal year 2026-27 substitute pay revision.
So this one is on here, not only to reflect the changes that I believe were requested and that we wanted to put that forward, but also because of the way that it was presented, we mistakenly, by trying to, when we went to 26-27 and adopted the Rhode Island minimum wage, in doing so, what we did was we lowered for the first half of the year what we're currently paying out. And so because Rhode Island minimum wage, for example, would be $16 right now. What we didn't want to do was start off. So for example, our custodians this current year at $16.52, we didn't want to start off sub hourly rate at $16. But ultimately, it's the way it was presented and how we adopted it. That's what would have occurred. So that's why it's before you this evening. One, to make sure that we keep our existing rates for this school year, as long as they are in compliance with or above Rhode Island minimum wage, and then adjust accordingly on July 1 when minimum wage changes. Or excuse me, January 1 when those changes. As well as separate the chart for those hourly rate positions as well as the daily rate positions. And then last but not least, I did find I want to thank Deb Durda for pointing out to me that our sub rate cannot be higher than the lowest step of an initial contract. So that's why certain hourly wages wouldn't exceed a certain amount, or we don't want to push it too much, because then we wouldn't want our substitutes making more than those who are with us full time and our contract are, part of the bargaining units. And so that's how prices are, or excuse me, some of those wages have been set historically.
We have a motion to accept
Yep.
the minimum wage, I'm sorry, the substitute pay as presented.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the FY 2026-2027 substitute pay revision.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is discussion legislative liaison updates. Current initiatives before the House and Senate relating to public education. Michelle?
At our last meeting, we discussed the, House and Senate bills. Senate 3015 and House 8351 with regard to the funding formula. And thank you to Mr. Stevo, who, investigated and found that they have been tabled for further discussion.
Just to clarify, that was the Senate bill was held for their study.
Study.
It looks like the House Resolution number 8351 sub A is has been recommended for passage as of today, as a matter of fact. So I don't know what that implies for the Senate side of things, but it does show there's movement on the House side for that bill.
Thank you, Mr. Stevo. And is it is another bill with regard to unfunded mandates, but it was in the Senate only. I ain't heard any feedback on that, so I don't know if any other school committee members have heard about any other action that's going on in the assembly. We've only got a couple of weeks left. Today, I think is June 9th. And so we've got like 20 days, calendar days left before they recess for the until the next session. I would just request that this get put on our next agenda as discussion and action, because I do have, I think Mr. Henny has sent the possible copies of resolutions for us, and we could bring those forward the next time. And then I don't know if anything else will come up over the next couple of weeks. I've been in touch with our General Assembly members, and, you know, ask them to inform me if there's anything for us. Thank you.
Yes, we can get the copies from Andrew, get them to everybody to read before next meeting, and then bring it back with an action item. No problem. All right. That brings us to G, discussion policy number 8425, residency, first read. James?
Thank you. This is coming back before the full committee due to some feedback we received when our last revision was passed last year. There were some changes that were recommended from RIDE based around our addressing the McKinney-Vento Act and how we handle students in transition with our residency policy. They felt there were some deficiencies with the policy that was passed and enacted last year. So we worked at the policy subcommittee level to revise the residency policy. And then this also ties into the next item on our agenda regarding a new McKinney-Vento policy that we're bringing to the table for consideration. I would like to turn over to Mr. Seeger for additional content and context around the need for this change and what this means for our students and residents and policies going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Estivo. And I'd like to begin by once again thanking the policy subcommittee for what must have seemed like, you know, deja vu all over again in terms of revisiting policy 8425. Interestingly, concurrent to the work last year on this policy, to your point, Mr. Estivo, the district was one of several across Rhode Island that were engaged, that was engaged in an annual federal program monitoring audit that is conducted by RIDE. And interestingly, they look at in this context, the 23-24 school year plan and how it rolled out in 24-25. And then reviewed in 25-26 with an expectation of taking recommendations into an action plan and having that in effect in your 26-27 school year. So I hope that didn't confuse the issue, but I appreciate that the context there. And so essentially what we have is a direct response to the recommendations in the action plan, and in particular, fine tuning the language in policy 8425 to be more strongly aligned with the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act, and to fine tuning language that would potentially, you know, present a barrier for students and families in a homeless situation. as defined by the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. And with that, there was also the recommendation of where we currently in policy 8425 as passed, we allude to students in transition and students who qualify for McKinney-Vento protections and entitlements, if you will, and then forming that into a new standalone policy. And so that's why the policy committee had decided to move as in tandem with these policies. And essentially, if we want to take them together, I can speak to both, or we can go one at a time, whatever the pleasure of the committee is.
I kind of like to take them one at a time.
Okay.
Because I think we have an opportunity with this. I know it's been a year. So, but we made changes to this policy regarding having to prove residency every year. So I'd like to know how that's going. And is the policy working to the level that we need it to? So those are just the questions I have, and that's why I just wanted this policy for just a minute.
Okay.
And can you speak to those things regarding this policy?
I mean, my instant response to that is the policy is working exceptionally well in terms of ensuring that that we are taking actions, including enrolling, students who are residents of South Kingstown. And in terms of the actual, outside of the policy, but into our protocols and practices and procedures built around that, I can only report that it's gone smoothly in that regard, but I will, defer to Mr. Pedraza if there's any additional comments.
I think it's gone well. I think there's some growing pains. There's some questions that need to be answered, asked and answered. But those have been few and far between. In any case, I think that in year two and moving on, especially in terms of those impacted by this, because again, it's homeschool, charter school that need to prove residency annually. And so again, depending upon, because it's a major change, the vast majority have been able to comply, some not so much, and some might be away. So it's, but overall, it has not been administrative, it has not been a burden to the administration. And I believe that in some cases, we've been able to say, well, we found out information and we no longer have to take action regarding something. The only other component will be on. Okay, so in terms of operational this year, it is different, but it has not been burdensome. I only expect it to improve as this becomes the modus operandi.
And I would certainly build on that and add, kudos and accolades to the individuals who, acted immediately on, acting on the policy as passed and ensuring that, that is as clean a process as possible. So thank you. In addition, I just would like to point out that as we had discussed at policy subcommittee, the motion was to send this policy forward to the committee, also with our district council review as well. And so I'm pleased to let you know that Attorney Hennius was able to provide feedback on this. And so if you're looking at page 2 of the policy, if you look at the bottom section, Roman numeral 7, that is highlighted in bright neon yellow, Attorney Hennius has recommended that this would be a portion of the policy that we should omit and remove from the policy moving forward. And this is the only feedback related to policy 8425 from Attorney Hennies.
Is there a reason to remove this language?
So in the feedback from council, It was, the concern related to, the potential for, certain expectations to perhaps, to not be met. And so, in terms of what's listed here, in terms of closing on a property and having blueprints to build a home, and then wanting to enroll in schools, and then having a situation where, due to, we need not look too far back in history, look at supply chain issues and things of that nature, where you could have an extracted, prolonged process before a student or family resides in South Kingstown, all the while being, responsible for the, education of students or student.
As well as ultimately potentially never reside. So even if I'm building something doesn't, and I'm saying I'm going to live there, doesn't mean that I'm actually going to.
Thank you. I just wanted to hear that. So just to clarify the changes to this policy, that changes to omit that, the highlighted paragraph. And then also on the same page above, number 3, students in transition, referring to the policy we're going to look at next. I assume that it's new.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm remiss in not pointing out that what the policy subcommittee had reviewed, different from the current policy. The ultimate substantive changes are, to your point, the removal of that is section 7 currently, related to students in transition homeless. So that is a new portion where it's going to refer to potentially, upon passing, a new policy. And then above and beyond that, just as an important footnote as well, there is removal of language that is no longer applicable. That was, I believe, language that alluded to foster care placement that was in No Child Left Behind, that is no longer applicable in the policy. So that has been removed from from our current policy, this draft. And then finally, on page 1 of the policy, Roman numeral 2, that has been renamed to registration. And this was a specific recommendation made by RIDE. The language of burden of proof in and of itself can be taken potentially as a barrier. And so RIDE had recommended in the, in that final monitoring report that be revised to something different from burden of proof. And with that, those are the key changes.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd just like to follow on that, item 7. I know it is council's suggestion to remove it, but I do recall situations in the past where we had situations where someone wished to enroll but had not completed their purchase of a property. And there was a lot of consternation that came about because they could not enroll in the future school of that student. So I do have concerns about removing that from the policy. I mean, I think it's handled with the reasonably expects to become a resident of the district. I mean, I think that obviously there's differing, there's a matter of opinion to some degree, but I think if we use a reasonable expectation, I don't see an issue with it personally, but I don't know. I would be a little bit concerned about removing that.
So I do have a problem with it the way it's written, but I understand the intent you're going with. Because if you just have the deed to a plot of land and you say you're gonna build something, doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna get a letter of occupancy. But if we wanted to leave the door open to a dwelling that is substantially completed or close to getting the letter of occupancy, some language like that, that there would be a clear intent to move in and enroll your children in school. I mean, maybe the language could be reworked if we feel like it's something. I also think it ought to be language that says to be approved or denied by the superintendent, so it's not an automatic, but the door would be open. I mean, because I understand what you're saying. If you're gonna, if I have a first grader and my house is gonna be done in October, do I really want to enroll them someplace for 1 month? So I do understand. But I also understand this language is kind of, it doesn't, it's not clear enough of, like what stage a dwelling has to be at before you're allowed to enroll your child.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment that maybe rather than removing it completely, we could have council take a look at it or work through what reimagining of that phrase would be acceptable to them, and also honor the intent, which is to make sure that our system is welcoming to students who are going to be in this district, and we want to, you know, especially given our enrollment challenges, we don't want to be in a position to proactively deny students coming to our district. I do understand there's other downstream implications when we're talking about state funding and you know, we look at the average daily membership. Are they actually a resident? We're paying for them even though they're not actually residents. So I get there's other downstream and broader issues that are involved here. But I think it'd be worth at least revisiting it as a potential revision to the existing text rather than a complete removal of it.
Can we have it sent back to our counselors to see if they can come up with language that leaves a window open so that if they're close to moving in, that we can allow a student to enroll?
We can do that. Additionally, I anticipate that Attorney Ennis would be here at our next meeting as well to speak to this and his rationale in person.
So I think it also speaks to, we had a situation of, on this topic come to us prior to you guys joining us. And we had a person who, they lived in a different community and they bought a house and the house was very slowly being built. They were paying taxes to South Kingstown based on the property value as it stood, and they wanted their kids to be enrolled in South Kingstown. So Andrew is very fluent in that situation, I'm sure. So it would be good to just have more, to your point, have more detail about why it's being worded the way it is, and because it was a situation.
I also have concern with that particular item. I mean, when I moved back to South Kingstown, I was having my house built, and that's how my children built it. We were literally camping out with my mom, and that would have technically put them at platoon. And I didn't have an address in Snow Harbor, and I didn't have an address in the town that I sold the house in. The only address I had was the one where I was building a house. And, they enrolled my kids at South Road. So I don't know if, Mr. Hennius or one of the other partners can give this a relook. I like the idea of approved or denied. And see if we can come up with something else. My other question, did Mr. Hennius have any comments regarding, the his or her, he or she language in the policy and whether it should be more generic, they, them. I don't know what other committee members think about that, but I would personally prefer not to see the he should.
Do you have a page number that you see
So
that? on?
it's in a couple of places. The one that, the paragraph 6, it's, I think there's a couple of, places in that paragraph, as I recall. In the second line, his or her,
Yeah, I agree. I think we need they, them.
and, yeah,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, when I caught that, I went back and tried to look yeah, at the rest of the document to see if there were other places.
Thank you, Michelle. That,
There.
yeah.
We
Paragraph
can,
4.
I would
No.
just say that in section 6, that is, it's taking Rhode Island general law. And so that's why that language exists in the parentheses. Oh, I'm sorry, section 4. All right. That's where that,
But I guess where it's
But we
being
can-
derived from this law.
right, we don't, I mean, we could keep it there, but at the same time, the law is the law and this is the policy, so we can we can create a version and do a find and replace.
Yeah, I think we need they, them. And I think maybe the General Assembly needs to think about that.
Well, thank you for consideration. This is changes to the residency policy. This is a first read, so we'll be bringing this back for further discussion with hopefully some revisions that we've discussed at the table here, so we can take a look at it for a second read. And then, so that ties in nicely to our next agenda item, which is the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act policy, new to the district. This was in the previous residency policy is sort of like almost a subsection of that residency policy. If you look at the one that's on the books on board docs, there is a section 7, which kind of starts to outline what McKinney-Vento is all about and how that applies to residency. Instead, we're taking that McKinney-Vento policy, we're going to make it our own policy standalone and refer to it. And I think it's self, cross-referential between residency policy and McKinney-Vento. So it is important to get these both on the books at the same time so that we can make sure that they are, one policy doesn't make reference to a policy that doesn't exist. But I can also turn this over to Ms. Masuda for, what this McKinney-Vento policy is all about and why we need it and how it's helpful for us.
Thank you once again, Mr. Estivo. And so similarly, this is stemming from a recommendation made by RIDE on the heels of our monitoring audit. So essentially, what you see captured in this draft policy is it's really a way to codify current practices in policy that are outlined in federal law in the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. What I would also offer is, it just so happens that in a neighboring district that Attorney Hennius also represents, they had recently crafted a policy around McKinney-Vento. So we were in the, in the key position to be able to have, a model close by in the state that was also, had a hand from our legal counsel. So in terms of, the why and the purpose of this, again, it's, really codifying even in terms of some of the operations pieces, which McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act touches upon. It's a way for us to have that reflected in its own standalone policy. And One piece I wanted to call attention to, speaking of Attorney Henius, is on the last page. Page 6. So once again, if you key your eyes in on the neon yellow highlight, the one piece of feedback that that Attorney Henius made was to delete that parenthetical phrase there, best interest determination. It is redundant in that, you know, the dispute resolution will cover that component of McKinney Homeless Assistance Act. A separate and aside from that, you know, I am as the current serving district liaison. I'm just, you know, I'm very familiar with what's here and comfortable with what's here, and I do think that it's aligned and reflective of what we have in place in the district. So again, this would be a way for us as a collective organization, as an LEA, to capture that in policy. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So that was my first question. What position is the liaison? So yeah, that was good. Well, thank you for serving in that position. So when you say liaison, obviously we care about the children and youth who are homeless residing someplace else, but are kiddos, right? But we also care about the kids that live in our district that may be seeking to go to their home district. Are you a liaison for both?
That's an excellent question, and actually, no, in the sense that in their school of origin, that whoever is liaison there would then interface with me here. And in situations that you're describing, that's reflected here in the policy in terms of the, you know, the working together to come up with essentially a cost share situation if it's related, if say, for instance, the transportation is the barrier. So where we have instances where we have students who their school of origin is not one of our schools, but they are here within our borders, and we are working with other LEAs in order to provide students with transportation to and from their school of origin.
So while you're not really the liaison, but you are the person working with their liaison, so you have a role.
Correct. And if you are interested in seeing the list of McKinney-Vento liaisons, that is something that is promulgated on the RIDE website. So we are all part of a catalog, if you will, or a directory, I should say.
Okay, that's good to know. They've got a lot of great information on their website. So, all right, any other questions?
Well, thank you again for consideration of the first read of the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act policy. We'll be bringing it back to the table in a couple of weeks on our next meeting for a second read. And hopefully, if the committee wills it to be approved, we can approve it and have it be our policy going forward. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank the policy subcommittee. Great job on both of those. All right, next up is a discussion of our annual summer workshop. So did anybody submit anything? Yes, yes.
Ms. Mayor, equity and school committee goals, as well as a tentative workshop date that works best for the majority of folks of July 28th. Tuesday, July 28th was the consensus. Vast majority of folks available.
All right, that's great. Anybody else want to add anything? You'd like have like light bulb moment, and like I really want to talk about this at the summer workshop. Stuart, you look like you wanted like oh
Yeah,
All right.
I was just wondering if there's anything specific that you wanted to hear. I mean, we talked about I think we got a pretty good list of topics from our last conversation on this. And I'm glad we were able to pick a date to have this workshop. So that's great. But yeah, I don't have anything else. I think what we talked about last session has a pretty robust amount of things that we want to talk about. And I think unless something comes up between now and then, I can think of anything.
Great.
Do
All right.
we have a, to have a school community self-evaluation prior to the workshop?
I guess that's my job, right? So yes.
You did a fabulous job last year. You really did.
Oh, thank you. So yes, we will be doing a self-evaluation again.
Michelle did bring up a point about, in years past, we have invited candidates for school committee to the workshop. So I think that's a good practice that, we can continue.
I would agree with that, and I think we have the filing deadline is the end of this month, so we won't know who's potentially there but it will be before the meeting, so.
Yeah, yeah. So there would be plenty of time to send an invitation to them.
The filing deadline is, as Mr. Stevo said, the end of the month, but then the candidates have an additional, and I don't know if I have the exact on this, 10 days to 2 weeks to gather the appropriate number of signatures. For nomination papers to get their names on the ballot. So that still will happen before our.
And it is an open meeting as well. So, yeah, we can definitely invite them, but anybody is welcome to come and observe.
That's a really, I think, really important point to make. It is not invitation only. This is just a special reach out to people who might be considered or are running for a seat at this table. We will invite them specifically, but all the community is welcome to attend the annual summer workshop.
Absolutely. So we hope to see everybody there.
Do we have a location?
We do not have a location yet, so we'll get that nailed down. right.
So I was thinking the same way. Do we have a location, and in inviting our community, what would happen if all those empty seats became full? And all of a sudden didn't have the right space. So does it make sense to ask people, once we have a time and place, to somehow engage with us, to let us know if they would intend to come?
Yeah, I think we would, I know one year we had it, or I was the candidate who was at the workshop. It was still called retreat at the time, but I was there at Broad Rock Middle School cafeteria, and I think that was an appropriate place because I think it does give us, opportunity to welcome more people into the conversation. Okay, all right. I thought it was a good place at the time. Maybe there are better places.
Expect
That's fair.
that. Yeah,
That's
for an entire day.
yeah.
But
Those
the
chairs
media
are-
center at Broad Rock is nice.
I was going to say, we had it at PCL Elementary School Media Center. That was the first year, external candidates were specifically invited, but to your point, it's an open meeting. Anybody can come, and anybody, it's not invite only. But we've had it at PCL Elementary School, we've had it here, we've had it at Broad Rock Media Center, which bundled up, pulled in there. But, and then we had it in the Broad Rock Auditorium. So it's been in various locations. Yeah. I'm not for or against it. I don't have an opinion. I just am saying like anybody can come, but I'm just saying the different
Anybody can
locations.
come.
It's the
Absolutely.
different locations. They all, I believe the main focus is air conditioning. Because it's typically really, 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 really warm.
Yeah, that's why the media center is really nice. Um, just, it is during the day, a weekday. So, it is what it is. It's, yeah, but that can be, a barrier for some people because they're working. But typically we don't see large crowds. I wish we would, but we don't. Um, but it is open. We welcome everybody that wants to attend. It's so anyway, with that being said, we will move on to school building committee update. Kate?
So we had our project team at town council last night. We had our school building committee meeting on Thursday, and then we had our town council presentation last night. It's just as far as the high school itself, business as usual. Steel is complete. Cement pours are finally complete. There may be one or two small spots that will be continued, but those large pours where it took it up into the night and the lights were on and all of that is finally done. So there should be no more after hours work going on, which is exciting. One of the biggest things that we talked about, especially last night, was the fact that the building initially has been designed to be solar ready, which means going forward, if we decided to install solar, we would have, we had the roof space, we had certain conduits built in that it was solar ready, but we are now exploring, on behalf of the town council's direction, actually in moving forward with projecting out, putting a solar array on the building. We have it so there are some federal, incentives that are not at risk, and there is a state incentive. The only caveat being is for the state incentive, the solar array would have to be installed and operational by December 2027. And it wouldn't have anything to do with the build of the project. It wouldn't have anything to do with the actual installation of the solar panels. It would have to do with how long it takes for Rhode Island Energy to make their connection. If anybody has solar panels on their house, they know that it takes a really long time. And we would most likely miss that date of hitting it operationally. So in order to kind of combat that, the state of Rhode Island actually has, and I'm forgetting the term. I can't remember the term that they use. I can see it on the image in quotation marks.
Is it like a safe harbor?
Safe harbor, thank you.
I was watching from home.
Thank you, perfect. So we could safe harbor the cost and it's 5% of the cost of the solar project. You basically pay up front. You buy 5% worth of materials, approximating at the moment approximately $80,000 of upfront investment. It secures our ability to acquire the incentives. However, it does not fully commit us to installing the solar array. So there is still an opportunity for whatever reason, if down the line, the town council says, you know what, forget it. We don't want the solar array installed because it is too much money or whatever reasoning might happen. We can actually say, okay, no, and then instruct our architect and engineering team to get as much money as we could back from that initial deposit. But at the moment, the town council believes that that particular risk is worth it. So we're moving forward. And at the June 22nd town council meeting, they'll do a full presentation of what the projected cost will be to include the solar array, and then going forward as far as how we'll project that out and complete that as part of the project. which I have solar panels on my house. I love them. The direction would not be to sell back the power and make money off of it. It would be to strictly, control costs and keep our operational expenses around electricity, as low as possible. Especially considering it's a fully electric building, but also we don't know what it's gonna cost 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road to run it, so that was kind of the big news. Everything else is moving along. Curtis Corner is moving along. We're still in the, mitigation process and, a mitigation abatement process over there. We will be setting up a butter meetings going forward when it's time to do the actual demo of the building. And then at some future meetings, we'll start to, really put together a full presentation of the phase 3, which is the site work on Curtis Corner. So it would be all 3 phases. The demos number 1, the track and field number 2, and then the actual site work would be phase 3. So still working on that part. Does anybody have any questions for me? No questions? Not one? Okay. How
Just-
about this way?
Just a comment, great news on solar panels. I think that's excellent because they do offset my bill quite considerably this time of year, especially when, air conditioning might be ramping up and you need that consideration. So, really, really happy to hear that. And I hopeful that will go forward and will actually be put in place.
Me too.
Yeah, no, I think that is exciting news. I mean, it was nice that it was going to be solar ready to, but actually have them as part of the building right away is great. And I believe it's because they are under budget and will have money left in the contingency fund, correct? So it's not adding to any of the costs. It's because we've had savings. And I do think the committee, everybody's done a fantastic job watching those costs but I also want to give a shout out to Chip, who's been very thoughtful on the reorders, the
Task order, change
task
orders.
change orders. Thank you. You knew exactly what I was thinking. Because he's really being managing what is a need versus what is a want. And so a lot of good work from a lot of good people. And the outcome is that we're going to get solar. So it's thrilling. So thank everybody that involved because they're doing such a great job.
I'm glad
And
you-
thank you, Kate, because I know it's a lot of work to chair that committee and because it's not just one committee, then you've got other subcommittees off of that. So thank you.
I appreciate you bringing up the change order task force. I want them to change the name because I can never remember how to say it. Because not only is it making changes that may increase and all that money comes out of contingency, it does not, to your point, does not increase the project total. But what also happens sometimes is it decreases. So there's often an offset and it's like, oh, we're going to use this type of tile instead of that type of drywall for long-term sustainability of the wall or to keep the costs down for future repair. But then on the flip side, it's like, oh, but we also don't need this or that when we look back at this, or we can take this table out and replace it with that table. And it is a savings of $10,000. So there is a definitely, it goes back and forth for sure. And Chip and his team are doing a phenomenal job. We have I can't speak more highly of our whole project team. I'm kind of in awe of them and I just kind of sit back and they are truly guiding us in a really great direction.
So I came home last night, but I was not driving and it was dark. So I did not get to see the building last night. I've been gone for 10 days. So,
Good, the lights were off.
Good.
I don't have to get a phone call.
so tonight, late this afternoon, coming to the meeting, I left the house a few minutes early and I drove around the block, which, as you know, coming from my house, it's not the most direct way to get here. And there's nobody behind me on School Street, so it's to drive through. And again, I I think of all the work that you have put in and the rest of the building, the school building committee and the workers and I'm in awe. And I'm very grateful. And then for you to tell us solar panels, I'm going to dance out. Thank you.
I will pay to see that. Want me to steal your thunder or are you doing it? You deserve it. I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
Get that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. We're adjourned.